We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
And before the video starts, I did want to point out that I'm in a different location. I feel like my lighting is better, and I feel like the sound is better. I do have a mic this time, and so hopefully you'll enjoy it a little bit more. And then I am aware that the way I am sitting is not super flattering in the video, and we'll just take that because I'm not redoing it. Hopefully you get some helpful tips from the video. Still working on my video presence. I feel like I'm a little bit better right now than I was in the video, but still working on that. So thank you so much for going along this journey with me, and hopefully you get some helpful tips. Hi, welcome to my channel. I am Veronica St. Lawrence, and today I'm going to be talking about my experience with secondhand fashion and giving you guys some hopefully helpful tips with how to find things online, how to find things in store, and places that you can go that maybe you haven't thought of yet that might have some good options. So first I do want to say the big thing is knowing your measurements. So like if we're gonna shop online for things, we want to make sure that we know our like chest measurements, your waist measurements. Knowing your chest and waist measurements are going to be huge in looking for tops and bottoms. And depending on what website you're on, the more detail they'll have about measurements. And then each measurement that they put on there, I would make sure that you measure that part of your body to make sure that it fits. It would seemingly fit pretty well. So an example would be the Real. That is a website that has, in my opinion, pretty good measurements on there. Also, like if you go on Poshmark, you can ask people what are the measurements of the outfit that they're getting. While I'm at it, I'll just go over different online stores that you could look into. Now these are just some. There are a lot more than the ones I'm about to say because there are a lot of like small local places that have their own like vintage shops and things of that nature. I will say in my experience of looking on them, they're not always have the most measurements, but a lot of them allow you to like email, and you can email and ask them about the measurements. Some places that I think have some pretty solid online stores to look at secondhand are Poshmark has great stuff, Mercari, Depop, Grailed I feel like is a lesser known, but if you're really more into maybe different kind of pieces that aren't like, or maybe more into streetwear, not your everyday stuff, Grailed would be a great place to go. Rebag, now that's not for clothing per se. They have some clothing, but that's more for like accessories, bags, things of that nature. It's a luxury consignment. Also, the Real also has second-hand clothes that you can get that's also luxury. And then Vestiaire is a kind of like a Poshmark, but more like upscale version of that. And places that I've gotten things from personally are Poshmark, the Real, and Vestiaire, and I've had good experiences with all three. And then, oh yeah, ThredUp. I know a lot of people like that. I've used ThredUp as well. It's not my favorite algorithm. Like I said, I've gotten something from there once, and I've sold something to them that did actually get sold, and so that was great. But it's just not my, I think, typical one that I would go with for myself. But those are different options, and if you all want to hear more about those different shops and things that they offer, or how to find smaller shops that maybe aren't as well known, I could do a video about that as well. Tip number 2, I've learned over time that it is important to expect pieces. Even recently, I just got a piece, and I don't know if the mic is picking it up, but it's storming outside, so if you hear that in the background, that's just what that is. But inspecting pieces is important. That is something I often forget. Don't be like me. Make sure you look at all of it. So I recently just got some jeans from a consignment store, a local consignment store, and the bottom of them is like coming apart. Now it's something that I can mend and patch and it'll be fine. But you just want to make sure though that you are aware of that before you get it and know if it's something that you actually feel like you could and would mend or could go get mended somewhere else or tailored. And so just really making sure you look at the pieces fully. Also looking at what it's made of, I feel like goes into that as well. So like inspecting and also knowing what materials are used. I always, at this point, maybe not always, but I really try to remember to look at the label. Or at least really feel the material, because you don't always have labels on things. Sometimes the tag is cut out and you don't know exactly what it's made of, but really feeling it and seeing if it's something that you feel like is durable and will last. So at this point, I really try to get natural fibers. So that's like cotton, linen, I might get silk, things of that nature that are coming from things in nature. And so I try to steer away from polyester. Doesn't mean I have done that 100% correctly. No. Again, not everything shows you what it's made of, so you don't know. Or if you're online, sometimes they don't say what the fabric is made of. And so you kind of just find out when you get it. But that's just more of what I'm trying to do. But at the same time, obviously polyester exists and it's not going to go anywhere at this point. Like, we have so much of it because so much clothes is made of it. So also thinking of like, okay, if I do get something polyester, first of all, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, I have plenty of pieces of them. But also, if it's not something maybe that I would use as an article of clothing, is it something like you see a garment and it looks really cool and interesting, but you're not sure if it's something you'd actually wear? Could you turn it into something else? And just being realistic with yourself about that, because don't just get it and you don't really have a plan, because then it's probably not going to end up, you're probably not going to end up doing anything with it. I'm saying that from experience. But if it's something that you actually have like a plan and you could see like, oh, this is a great idea of something I can turn it into, go for it. Tip number 3, this kind of goes into like knowing your measurements, but for me, I really try to only buy shoes in store. I'm just very particular with how they feel on my feet and how well I can walk around in them. I even have my own special insoles that I use, and that helps exponentially, but doesn't make it perfect if the shoe is too tight or if it's too loose or things of that nature. So like the sole piece, I'm okay with, just making sure you really try them on and also inspect them as well. And seeing if it's something that you can like go to a cobbler and get it fixed. So like seeing if it's a shoe that you feel like can be fixed with a cobbler, or if it's nice but maybe the bottom is just not, needs to be redone, or if the leather is a little worn but you feel like it can be refinished and redone as well. I think those are always great things that you can get for a much better price secondhand. And then even getting it fixed and mended at a cobbler still can be less than the actual cost of the original shoe. At least in my case, I have some fresh boots that I just got from a secondhand shop that's at the cobbler right now, and getting the secondhand shoes plus the cobbler is still exponentially less than it would have cost me to get them firsthand. And so that's also, I feel like, a good motivator for people. If you're not wanting to just do secondhand for any other reason, it could be that it's just cost less. And so especially if you're interested in like luxury products or things that are maybe a higher ticket. So, and to be clear, just luxury does not equal better quality. So making sure you're really looking, still inspecting those pieces, feeling like making sure you read the label, what is it actually made of. I guess that goes into a different tip, but maybe getting a little bit of research about fabrics and fibers, just because I think that can be helpful in regards to if you're wanting to get pieces that last a long time, that you don't have much issue with. The more you know about fibers and fabrics, the more likely you're going to find and be able to tell if something's a quality piece versus not. Obviously, that's not foolproof. I'm not an expert. Most people aren't going to be as experts, but it can maybe just make the percentage of getting something that's better quality higher. So this is something that I already do anyway, but I think can be helpful for other people. But I would say don't always shop with a buddy if you're going to go anywhere, shopping anywhere, but especially secondhand. See what you're drawn to. See what you just find naturally on your own. And sometimes the thing that keeps us from getting something that we just aren't really interested in, because maybe someone else thinks it's really cute, but we're still kind of like on the fence, like, I don't know. I personally like to get something that I feel really good in, and I feel like I can wear, you know, and I like can wear out and not need anyone else's opinion. I can wear and I just know I look good and I feel good. Regardless if anyone else says it or believes it, I know for me that I do, so it really doesn't matter. And so that's kind of where I go with my clothing. I feel like it can be a helpful tip if you often are looking for other people's perspectives, maybe just trying to to hone in a little bit on your own and getting into what you like. And that's where I think secondhand shops can be helpful, rather if that be a thrift shop, a consignment shop, whatever. It's just got more variety. And so maybe just walking in and doing a run through just around and seeing if there's anything that catches your eye, and then going back to those specific spots that maybe had something that did catch your eye. Okay, and the next one I would say is not shopping just in a one section. So like when you go to a thrift store, don't just look at either like the men's section, the women's section, looking everywhere, because you never know where you could find something that you maybe didn't think about. And especially if you finding your size can be difficult, I would open up to other options for yourself. I would say this kind of leads me into the next part. That's not necessarily a tip, but more of just kind of my experience over the years as I've shopped more secondhand, is that yes, size does matter to an extent. I'm not saying this is a good thing, because it's not, but especially if you're going to consignment shops, which have more higher end products and higher end garments, it is harder to find things in sizes that honestly are size 12, US 12 and plus. In my personal experience, as I try to find stuff, and as I've gained and lost weight over the years, I see a difference in like my options now that I'm smaller, that it's easier to find clothes in my size. But along with that, this is where a tip comes in. Not just opening up your options to different sections in a consignment store or in a thrift shop, but also this is where garage sales come in and where estate sales come in, because you never know the size of the people that live in the place that you are going to. And that is where I found a lot of different options of clothes that are various sizes. Just throwing that out there. Also, if you're looking for something a little bit more elevated but less of a price, then you would have to get maybe elsewhere. Estate sales is also where that would be. And so you do have to be someone maybe who's a little bit more on the hunt for these things, and who likes maybe a challenge with finding clothes that you like or finding unique pieces. If you're someone that maybe that's not as much of an interest for you, and you're more, I just want this specific thing, I'm not looking to hunt, that's where using like the Gem app would be helpful. And so it's Gem, like GEM, like a gem. It has a bunch of different consignment shops on, a bunch of different secondhand places on it. So it's got like Poshmark, Depop, Mercari, eBay, a bunch of different ones, and even some like local shops, because anyone can put their stuff on there that has secondhand. You can just type in the specific thing that you're looking for, and that's how you can easily and you can also filter out your size and all that stuff. So then if you're someone who does not like to hunt, you just want to have your thing there, that's a really, I think, good option, so that's not so effortful. We're not trying to make this hard or make this an extra step in your life that feels like a daunting task. Like, I want people to find more sustainable options easier, which I recognize can not always be the case. At least in my experience, it does take a little bit extra effort. So trying to make it as simple for you and anyone as possible. Gem app is very helpful for that. And then also if you're wanting to buy stuff that's not secondhand, and I know this whole thing is about shopping secondhand, but Good on You is helpful for just knowing what is sustainable, or learning a little bit more about what's sustainable versus not. It's really simple, but I think it can be a good jumping off point to get into other information. Okay, and the next one is kind of obvious, but I feel like sometimes we need permission. Do what makes logical sense for you. So if you know that you're someone who just is not big on buying stuff online, just don't. Go shopping in person. And so if you don't have any local shops near you, then maybe if you go out of town, go find some shops there. I do that all the time. A lot of my stuff is not from where I live, it's from all over, because I like to have that as a part of my trip, is going to thrift stores, vintage shops, consignment stores, and I found a lot of really interesting, fun pieces that I probably wouldn't have found if I just only shopped where I live. And then on the flip side, if you know that you are someone who only shops online, and especially if you're trying to get more into secondhand fashion and move away from fast fashion, retail stores, less sustainable options, then I would take those things off your phone if you have them. So like if you have like a Shein app or something, or a Temu app, I don't know. Those are like the only things I can think of right now. But obviously there's a whole lot more than that. But if you have any of, Pretty Little Things, whatever, on your phone, maybe taking those off and replacing them with like the Gem app that I mentioned earlier, or a Poshmark or something of that nature, that it helps it become your default rather than those. And so if you, kind of meet yourself where you're at, not doing something that's so different and so out of your realm. I think this might be the final tip. Going to thrift stores often is helpful because people bring stuff in all the time. And so going into them can be really helpful. And also I think we can be afraid of going into consignment shops or vintage shops because we can think, oh, they're going to cost so much money. But you'd be surprised. A lot of them have sales. A lot of them prices are lower than you might originally expect. Also be aware of like the item that you're getting, because obviously like if it's a Louis Vuitton or something, it's probably not gonna be that low, but it's a vintage like loft shirt that's 100% silk, it's probably gonna be lower, but it's still a pretty nice piece because it's from a while ago, it's silk and all those things. Just kind of being aware of that, of like what kind of brand is it and things of that nature, to help you kind of know like, okay, is this am I looking at something that I know is gonna be really high, or am I looking at something that still is a quality piece but is not going to be as high? So just kind of like as an example, like a Pull&Lane or Coach bag versus getting a Birkin. Still a quality bag, but it's just not going to have the same price tag as a Birkin bag will be. Obviously they're made differently and there are other things that go into it, but it doesn't mean that those aren't good bags to have. And so just kind of keeping that in mind so that we're not disappointed sometimes when we see things. So just thinking about like the practicality and reality of the things that you're looking at. And it doesn't mean just because it's not the most expensive thing does not mean that it's not good, and does not mean that it's not quality. And again, yes, quality can vary, but sometimes it's not even as big as we think it is. A part of it can be the fashion house that's from adds to the price tag. And so just being aware of those things. I would say a lot of this is just being open when it comes to secondhand shopping, and just being open to what you can find, being open to what you maybe are learning about yourself and your spending habits. I will say I'm learning a lot about mine, and I'm very much a person, if I go in person, I am spending the money and it's bad. I'm spending a lot. I have to really have a budget for myself, because if I don't and I'm just going on a whim, I'll just buy a bunch of things. That's just me being transparent. Versus if I'm looking online, I will look online for months to years and still not buy it, and then eventually buy it after looking at it for so long. And so that can be helpful and unhelpful because it is secondhand, and so it can be gone at that point. So maybe actually as the final tip is like a little bit of planning. Like if you know that you have a event coming up and you want to wear this top, or you're interested in a specific kind of top, it's something you've been thinking about for a while. If you have the money and it's within your budget and the way that you want it to be, maybe just go ahead and buy it when you see it. Planning can be helpful, because I did that with a dress for a wedding that we had last month that I was going to, that it was black tie, and I didn't really have a appropriate dress for that at this point. I went to a local consignment shop, and actually I got it just for like 20 something bucks, but it's a velvet blue dress that goes all the way to the floor and it looks great. And so just making sure, if you do have things or events that are coming up and you're wanting to do secondhand, sooner rather than later is always the best, because it allows you to have time to find things. You might have to keep going back to the same store, maybe getting in contact with the owner and saying like, if you guys come across this, can you please let me know? I would love to come in and try it on if it's in this size. And so planning, I feel like, is a big part of it. So I would say that is my last point for this video, but also I think the most important point is planning is a big thing when it comes to not just secondhand shopping, but I feel like anything when it comes to sustainability, because a lot of it, at least for me, when I'm less sustainable, it's because I'm doing something out of convenience. Obviously, that's not going to always work 100% of the time. You can't plan for everything. Prime example, had recent passings in the past couple of years, and so I have had to buy things. Maybe not had to, but I did buy things for those funerals because I didn't have appropriate clothing for it, and there were two different types of funerals, and there are also reasons why I didn't want to wear some things. But I was able to find one dress second hand, but then the rest I had to get firsthand. And so that's just, again, the reality of the situation. And so sometimes it does happen, and we're not trying to beat ourselves up about it. We're just trying to make slow, better changes over time, and so that our sustainability can be sustainable, so that it can last, because it's not like a crash diet kind of thing, where we're just making quick changes that might be hard to upkeep. We're trying to do stuff that makes sense for us and that can last us over time, and not give ourselves shame about things that happen, because shame is not a motivator. Shame is something that puts us down. And so just, giving ourselves grace, working to get better. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.